Church family, it has been 2 Sundays in a row now that we have had snow. Certainly none of us knew this was coming. Scripture says man plans his ways, but the Lord determines his steps. And so here we are. Last week as the elders were texting back and forth about the weather, one of the elders commented, he said, well, you know, of course, the last person we need on the road in snow is our pastor, given what happened to him recently. So most of you know by now, I'm sure, about my accident. This was the first snow we had a couple Thursdays ago. Thankfully, I'm okay. Obviously, I'm here. I'm a little bit stiff and sore at times, but thankful because it could have been a lot worse. But thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your support. I received cards and texts and encouragements, and we appreciate that so very much. I can't say the same for my truck. Unfortunately, it's totaled, so we're in that process, as some of you know. But thankful that again, nobody was seriously injured and that I'm able to continue to do and be able to do as we have been. So, but thank you for your prayers and support in that. Needless to say, though, we're not able to meet. And so we want to take a few moments and just share, though, a couple of announcements. Just because we're not gathering, there's ministries and things going on we want to draw your attention to. First of all, at our members meeting in January, the elders shared that we are now accepting nominations for deacon candidates. We would encourage you to read 1 Timothy chapter 3, which talks about the qualifications of those that serve as deacons. And if there's someone you'd like to nominate, please give their name in writing to one of our elders. The deadline for that is February the 21st. So we'd appreciate your prayers and thoughts towards that. Also, for February the 21st, that is our next one-day new members class. So if you're watching this, maybe as a visitor or somebody that's been attending, and you're wanting to know more about the church, please go to the church website, register for that, and we'd love to see you. It's from 2 to 6 p.m. on the 21st. Please make plans to join us. Also, one last just quick announcement is a ministry opportunity for us that we can all be part of. As you know, our women's ministry has had a tremendous partnership and has been helping with the Domestic Violence Prevention Center in Lynchburg. Because of COVID and snow and the economy and just several things, they have had a big downturn in their food pantry. And their shelves are getting kind of bare, and they reached out to ask about getting some help. And so we want, as a church, to help fill that need. And we'd love to get your help in that. So if you could next time you go shopping, put some non-perishable food items in your basket, bring it to church, and for the next few Sundays, we will be collecting those. There will be collection points at both main entrances, and please bring that so we can be a blessing to them and help fill their pantries during this time of need. The deadline for that will be February 28th. If you have questions, contact the church office, but we'd love to everyone participate and just be a big blessing to the DVPC. Well, the reason we're here for this video now is we are very fortunate as a church to be in a season to be considering one of our staff positions as a church. In our January members meeting, our personnel committee, with the support of our elders, shared that we have a candidate for our director of children's ministry position. He's not a stranger to many of you, but if you don't know him, we want to spend this video getting to know him a little bit better, and that's a member of our church, Brother Tim Helm. So it's great to have you, Tim. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a privilege.
So as a church, we have been very blessed for a long time to have good leadership, whether it's elders or deacons or your staff and so forth. And this one opening has been an opening for quite some time. In the past, it's been a part-time position, but about a year ago, the church decided to make it a full-time position. So we've been on quite a search and quite a journey to get to where we are. But the personnel committee elders are glad to be at this point to be presenting you to the congregation. Now, we know you, I know you well, but others may not. So Tim, why don't you take a second for those that don't know you and just kind of share a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, well, I hope you know my name at least. My name is Tim Helm. I'm married to Catherine. You might know her as well. I grew up in the north pretty much my whole life in Connecticut, lived in the same house my entire life, moved down here. I had to go to Liberty University. So I studied pastoral leadership. Pastor Tyler was a professor for a few classes, so that was a good time. After I graduated, Catherine and I got married 2 weeks later. We stayed in the area. We've been coming to Forest since the fall of 2016, so we're almost at 5 years now. It's been a wonderful time. We've loved being here at Forest. I currently am a student at Southern Seminary as well. The church graciously has allowed me to be able to study there and to just work on my Master in Divinity, take a lot of really great classes as I'm just preparing for ministry. The Lord has put a desire in my my heart to serve the church in whatever way is possible. And so, again, just thankful for this opportunity.
So Southern Seminary, I went to Southeastern, as you know.
You did.
I will forgive you for that. Favorite class and or favorite professor? Just curious.
Yeah, I honestly, the first one that comes to mind is my very first semester. I had New Testament 1, which studied just the Gospels with Jonathan Pennington. I'd never heard of him before going to Southern. He is an amazing theologian. Highly recommend his works, but that class has had a huge impact on me.
Yeah, that's great. So your testimony, some may know it, some may not. So just how did you come to faith in Christ yourself?
Sure, yeah. Well, I, of course, had the privilege of growing up in a Christian household. I grew up in children's ministry my whole entire life, going through all of the different things, youth group and such. And so that's a great privilege that I had. Profession of faith came pretty early on in life. I was baptized into the church in 8th grade. So that's when I officially joined the church that I grew up at. I, again, had the privilege of being in one church my entire time. And so as far as continuing on, that was a really, really great privilege. It was about my junior year in high school, though, that I really started feeling like a deep, not just growth in my knowledge of God and His Word, and just Christ and salvation, but also just a desire for people and for them to see Christ as well. I so clearly remember January of my junior year in high school, having just a time of devotion. Honestly, I think it was 1 a.m., kneeling at my bedside, reading the book of Ecclesiastes. And, I'd known Christ, but it hit me for the first time ever that everything is meaningless compared to God, to His surpassing love, to the salvation that He's given us. And that honestly started a journey in my life where I just started having a desire to serve the church, to give up and surrender anything else in my life and just serve God. So that's really where my desire grew from. I've had many opportunities to serve God in His church, but whatever that looks like, I love serving God.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's great. Now, obviously, as you just said, you have served your former church in many ways. Mm-hmm. You've actually worn a lot of hats here at Forest, even just volunteering, helping out in a lot of different areas. But one area that I think maybe even surprised me, even though I knew you well, was how much work you have done in children's ministry, serving as a volunteer in the past. So why don't you just kind of run through the highlights? What are some of the areas that you've been able to serve in with children's ministry? Sure.
Well, all I can say is all of it is just amazing opportunities that have been given to me to step into ministry situations and such. As you said, actually, the church I grew up at, I pretty much exclusively served in children's ministry. I know here I've gotten to partake in adult Sunday school class, youth ministry, but really children's is kind of like coming home for me. It's what I did all throughout high school at the church I grew up at. I had a lot of great opportunities. The children's director at the church I grew up at kind of took me under his wing, really saw in me a desire for ministry. He kind of let me be his pseudo assistant per se, and so I got to see a lot of the administrative side. I know a lot of times when people jump into children's ministry, they see kind of the action side. Sunday morning, let's go, let's do all this. But a lot of my formative experience was actually the administrative side, whether it's putting slides together for Sunday morning or kind of figuring out who's stepping in to cover 1st through 3rd graders this upcoming Sunday. And so that was a really great opportunity, many years serving there. I also had another few opportunities through my high school youth pastor. He ran an inner city ministry in the city right over from where I grew up at. It was an after school group that met about 120 kids, 1st through 5th graders. And so every Monday night we were out there, we were doing activities with them. My senior year, he actually gave me the responsibility, a really big one, to lead that entire group. I had a group of adult volunteers. I honestly was the youngest person there, leading them. And just, I taught the lesson each week. We planned games. We had study questions, things like that, even everything down to getting the snack organized. That was part of what I had to do, and honestly, kind of trial by fire. I was really thrown into that, right. But it was such a formative and good experience, and really just fortunate that my high school youth director saw that desire in me, gave me that opportunity, really was just there to assist me and aid me, but kind of let me lead that. A final thing I'd mention is I went to the Dominican Republic many years in high school. We worked with a lot of different villages there. Loma de Cabrera in the mountains was one of the main ones we'd work in. We'd run a VBS for them every single year, and so it was after my junior year in high school. I actually, again, trial by fire, thrown in to lead that entire thing, about 250 kids coming from all the surrounding villages. In 3 days, we did VBS. I so clearly remember we were there in July, I started January of that year, preparing all of that stuff, and it is a lot of work. And so I very much appreciate all of the people at Forest who've done all of that work here for many years, and think I can bring some experience and help into that as well.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of getting thrown into the deep end, just whether you intended or not. But sometimes on-the-job training can be the best. It sticks with you because you have to figure it out. Now, as you think about children's ministry, there's all different kinds that you see in different churches. There's on one end of the spectrum what I would call the Nickelodeon model, where it's just sort of fun and games and whatever gets the kids in the door. Maybe Bible Light in some places. On the other extreme, it may be, again, what I might call Bible boot camp, where it's just Bible memorization or catechism or something that's very, very sort of rigid, not as fun because, we're here for God's Word, and it's kind of serious in that sense. So when you think about those two ends of the spectrum, what do you think a healthy children's ministry, what does it look like given those two options?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I have to, start answering that by saying a little bit of my background. I definitely come from a bigger church model. There's things I definitely would like to employ from that. There's many things I honestly wouldn't like to employ. I've kind of seen another side of the picture than maybe we have here at Forest. You said it so well, though. I think that a lot of times we have this maybe false dichotomy, even this false division of that children's ministry is either Bible heavy or it's fun. And I don't think those necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. I want our children's ministry to be a place where kids come to learn about Jesus, but they look forward to learn about Jesus. Now, the two main things there are what? They're learning about Jesus. They're learning about his word, but they're also looking forward to it. I think those can go hand in hand. And so again, while we might stray from some of the big kind of production model of children's ministry, I think there's a lot of good things that we can employ, that we can use, even upgrade and modernize in our children's ministry. So kids are still in and out learning verses from the Bible. They're learning Bible tools. They're learning that the Bible is ultimately a story about Jesus and that Jesus brings salvation. But at the same time, they can look forward to seeing their friends, seeing their teachers, familiar faces each week, and honestly enjoy knowing their Creator more and more.
Yeah. When I think about my own upbringing like you, I grew up in church. And I do remember, of course, many lessons that I learned, but I really remember the people, the teachers that I had. I remember their names. I can see some of their faces and their example and the difference that made. And even as a pastor's kid, I remember looking forward to seeing those people. I was always at church, but it was nice to have those people and those opportunities. So I think that's a great idea. Now, as we think about children's ministry, one big area, of course, recently in the news was, particularly in Southern Baptist life, there was the, child abuse allegations and issues over the last few years. The Houston Chronicle, of course, unfolded all that of just how many cases and cover-ups and just a terrible, tragic situation that could have been avoided, but in too many cases, it was not the case. And so in recent years, it's really been brought to home for us as Southern Baptists. Yeah. What do we do in children's ministry to make it safe, to make it legal, and to do the things that are best for children and workers and everyone involved? So just from your seminary training and your thoughts, what do you think about all that and what that might look like at Forest?
Yeah, I'm sure everyone has heard about, the different things that you mentioned, the Houston Chronicle article and stuff. Even if you don't work in children's ministry, you should care about this. It's very serious, and I could honestly spend the rest of our time today talking about safety. We don't have time for that, but it's important, and we need to focus on it. We need a children's ministry where parents feel comfortable dropping their kids off, and obviously that's safety as far as the teaching that we have there, the spiritual teaching, but equally as important, we also need a place that's healthy for children to be at, a place that's safe, where nothing could even happen. I know a lot of times people think and they say, well, I don't think anything would happen at Forest. But we need to make sure that Forest is a place where nothing could even happen. We have a lot of different safety things that we already do here at Forest, and I think that's really good. I think we're definitely meeting that bar well. I think there's more that we can even do. A lot of times safety is a thing where it's a little scary. It's a little scary to kind of talk about it. People kind of want to dodge it. But honestly, it doesn't have to be a scary thing. It has to be something we talk about, but it can be modern. It can be very, very well done. We can up our standards even better. One thing I definitely want to do if I'm voted into this position is definitely review every single one of our safety and cleanliness policies that we have, just so that we can upgrade those things. Again, we will do everything we can to honestly answer the call that parents are giving to us. What are they doing? They're giving us their kids, their most valuable thing in their lives, and we need to ensure to them that their children are protected. right? That they're safe, that they're healthy there, and that they're ultimately getting to learn about Jesus in the most comfortable and the most healthy environment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When you think about children's ministry and children's leaders, one question that I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment.
Sure.
Some might say, well, okay, Tim is the candidate. He and his wife Catherine, they've been married a few years, but they don't have kids. Can you really be a children's director? Can you really work with kids and not have kids? What would you say to that? Because I'm sure the question, if nobody's asking it, they might be thinking it. Sure. So what do you think?
Yeah, well, I don't want to blow off that question right away, because I think there is some validity to it, right? We are commanded to have children if we are able to. And I assure you, it is Catherine and my desire to have children, to be fruitful and to multiply. We would want to have kids. We hope the Lord blesses us with many kids at the classrooms I hope to lead, that we populate those with our own children. Yeah. So no, I don't want to blow off that question. I think there also is a lot of wisdom and experience that can come from having kids. And I realize that. Once again, that is our desire. I'm not entirely sure it's a qualification per se, though. Again, while wisdom might come from it, many benefits might come from it, we surely wouldn't require a pastor to have had cancer himself to minister to someone going through cancer, or to have lost their mother to minister to someone who lost their mother. Actually, to be frank, the Bible doesn't even require the pastor to be married, and yet he can do marriage counseling and stuff like that. One thing that you and I have talked about, and I think even coming off of this kind of COVID season, trying to relaunch a lot of stuff, is that we might find that it might be a benefit not having kids at this time. I don't have kids I got a bedtime for, I got to be home for. I can be here getting some stuff done late at night, especially before something like an Easter extravaganza event, things like that. And so, yeah, I definitely don't want to blow off that question. I think it's a very good and valid one. I don't think it's a requirement per se, but again, it is our desire to have children.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, one of the absolute best children's pastors I've ever known, he and his wife were never able to have children, but they saw every child that came through, spiritually as theirs in that sense, and they saw the parents as ones that they could learn from, and so I certainly think that there's so much to that's of a benefit. So when we think about Forest and our children's ministry now, you mentioned earlier, we do a lot of events that are sort of family specific, our big ones, the Easter extravaganza, Fall Festival, those kinds of things. When you look at the children's ministry as it is, what would you say we do well? Just kind of what are the high points? And then maybe what are some things you'd like to see us improve on or take to the next level?
Yeah, well, I've had the opportunity to serve a few years here at Forest in our children's ministry, and so I've got to see kind of the ins and outs of what we do in our classes. I think one of our greatest strengths is our Bible curriculum, to be honest. Using that is super, super good. I've seen in my time in children's ministry things all over the spectrum. I've seen kind of just what's the verse of the Sunday ones, and I've seen ones like ours, which are more, let's get into what the Bible actually says, and let's not just skip all of the harder stories and hit the good ones everyone knows. Let's get into it. And so I think it's definitely one of our strengths. Our volunteers, of course, is one of our strengths. I know many of the people working on children's ministry. I hope that for many more years they'll continue to serve with us. We have so many people who are able-bodied, who are just filled with the Spirit and are just so desiring for our children to see the Lord. And so that's a great strength. I also know our volunteers during VBS season as well. Church family knows it as well, that the church gets so decorated for things. We've got a lot of talented people here. And so just so many people that can make such a vibrant and great children's ministry. I think there's things that we can upgrade as well, and that's not a bad thing. That's just we can always be doing things even better. We talked about safety before. I think other things that we can employ in class is especially kind of getting that conversation to continue through the week. A lot of people don't think about this sometimes. I've considered a lot recently that children's ministry is actually a lot of families ministry as well. We don't want conversations about what you learned in Sunday school to end there or just at Sunday dinner, right? We want it to go throughout the week. And so we want to equip families. We want families to continue discipling their children, growing up, that conversation from class continuing throughout the week. So just like we apply sermons throughout the week, children also can apply what they learned in Sunday school. So I think that's something I'd love to see emphasized a little more here. One other thing that comes to mind is definitely our outreach opportunities. We do two great ones, the Fall Festival and the Easter Extravaganza during the year. I'd love to see much more that we can do in our community, reaching people around here. There are various ideas of what that might look like. And again, that kind of ties into families ministry as well, equipping families to also do that, bringing people, inviting people to church and things like that. But yeah, outreach is definitely something I'd love to hit on as well.
Yeah, I think that's great because, you can practically throw a rock and hit, 6 elementary schools, just around our church building.
Yeah.
So there's no shortage of children, families in the community, and so making sure that that's a priority, obviously. And like I said, we see it at VBS every year. There are kids around here. How do we reach those kids, share the gospel, and help them to grow in the Lord? So, Tim, we kind of covered a whole lot of things here. Anything we left out? Anything you want to add? Anything else to share with the church before we go?
Yeah, I'm just super grateful for this opportunity. Honestly, it's humbling. It is just amazing. Catherine and I have been so blessed by this church for many, many years. We've served in this church. Whatever the church sees best, we will be serving for many, many more years here at Forest. And so we're just so grateful for this opportunity. We love you all. We're just so thankful for how much we've been built into, and we hope to continue to build into, especially specifically children, over the next many, many years.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate you sharing and doing this. The church will have the chance to know you a little bit more, and if they have more questions, to ask those of you. But thanks for answering these few questions for our time.
Yeah, thanks
Appreciate
so much.
it.